Barony. It's just like Splendor. Roll the intro. Welcome back to The Point. My name's Michael Walker, and today we're going to be looking at Barony. It's a 2 to 4 player game from Madagot Games by Mark Antony. I'm going to show you how to play, then I'm going to tell you what I think. Let's do this. So setup is simple. Players just take 9 tiles each and lay them out on the board randomly. Each tile consists of 3 hexes. Each player will get a quick ref chart that tells them all the different actions they can do, and then you populate the board with these cities or castle. Each player is going to have 3 on the board before they start and 1 knight on each castle. The rules for placing them: you can't have them on woods, and they can't be beside other castles, and they cannot be in the water, of course. So once everything's done, the first player gets to take 1 action, and then you go in clockwise order. Everyone gets 1 action. The actions consist of placing more knights on the board. You can place your knights at your castle. You get to place 2 knights. Unless your castle is beside water, then you'll get to place 3 knights. The knights have to go all at the same castle. You can't divide them up. The next thing you do is move 2 of your knights 1 space. You can't move 1 2 spaces. 2 separate knights, 1 space each. The next thing you do is you get to convert knights into buildings. So after you've moved out and added more knights to the board, so this is probably later in the turn, it's now yellow's turn, and now they want to build buildings. They can convert all or any of their knights into buildings. You simply take your villages and you place them where your knights are, and then the knights are taken off. So there's 2 different kinds of buildings you can build. There's your villages or your strongholds. So this knight's going to build a stronghold, and then you remove the knights, and this is how you get points. So depending on the terrain type of the tile that you built a building is the kind you're going to get. So here I did fields, woods, and fields. So I would get these tokens down here. They correspond to the different terrain types. So you get 2 points if you build on a mountain, 3 if you build on a forest, 4 if you build in a meadow, and 5 when you build in a field. So you go to your big reserve of victory points chits where they give you tons. You take the tiles that you built buildings on, and then you go on to the next player. The next thing you can do is upgrade a village token into a city, and it's the same as the starting. You cannot build in the woods, you cannot build beside another castle, and you cannot build if there's an enemy knight in the same space. And then the 5th thing you can do is what they call a crusade. If you have 2 knights off the board, you can sacrifice 1 back to the game box, and you get to take your 2nd knight and come in on any board edge whatsoever. It's really handy when people block off sections of the map. I'll show you how that works later when we do combat and stuff like that. So it's pretty handy if you want to get to a part of the map that's not utilized. Like over here, there's no castles or anything, so you bring a guy in, and then you could, next turn you'd build them, turn them into a village, and then on the next turn you could turn them into a castle. You'll have 2 castles at the end, before you start the games, that you can convert into, and then you can start putting more knights there on another turn. Now the 5th thing to do is about scoring, so I'll show you how all the scoring works. So when you accumulate these tokens here, once you have 15 of them, one of your actions can be to move along the chart. Everyone starts at 0. When you've taken an action to cash in 15 of your points, you're going to move along the chart this way. When you built one of your 2 cities, because you only have 2 other castles or cities to build during the game, you'll move down. So, and as soon as someone reaches this last column, regardless of what row they're in, the game will end. And whoever has the most victory points will win. Now, that being said, the person who reaches here, all the other players will get to add up the smaller number on these chits. You'll see that they're normally worth 3, but at the end of the game, you'll get 1 point or whatever is the smaller grayer number. So someone could hit the 70 mark, but another player is in 65, and they have like 8 points worth of chits, so they'll actually be the winner. So you have to make sure that when you build your final thing, you're not going to let someone else win. So that's all the different actions you can take. Now I'm going to explain how combat works and area control. Now this area control and combat, well, combat in air quotes, is where this game really shines, because the actions are very tight. You know exactly what people can do. There's no surprise cards or dice rolling or anything like that. It's just straight up. If you have a knight out in the open, then enemy knights can move into the space, and that's perfectly fine. Even another color can move in. But as soon as one player has 2 knights in a space, then these knights get removed and can be added on later. Same thing with a village. If there's a yellow village and a yellow knight, then another color simply cannot even move in. So that's blocked. Same thing if there's a village in a mountain space, enemy knight just simply can't move in. So once you get a village in a mountain space, they're fully protected. Or if there's 2 knights already in a space, then a knight cannot move in. If you have 2 knights, and for your action, you move 2 knights into a space with a village, you simply just remove the village and it is gone. Another way it can work is if you have 2 knights in 2 different spots. So like I said, when you take the movement action, it's 2 knights move 1 space. So they move into here. Now that is taken off. This is how the game shines, because it's much like chess, where you're going to threaten spots. So you could have a village here, and you know that there's 2 yellow knights about to take it, and you can try to defend that, or you can just simply threaten one of his spaces and force him to make another move, or move somewhere else where you're going to get more victory points and get him to attack you there instead. It's a very tight mechanism. I think it's fantastic. So I'll show you how the area control works now, because there's lots of movement restrictions about where you can and cannot move. So like you can never move into opponent's castle or city, and they can also build these strongholds. So when they move a knight here, instead of building a village, they can build a stronghold. They'll still get the victory point token, but now this is much like a castle. So regardless of how many, you cannot move in to an opponent's stronghold. So you can create nice little barriers using the water and strongholds in your cities to try to block people off the map, but they can, like I said, always use a crusade to try to get around it. So it's really neat how you can control the map. So the other thing you can do is when you take an opponent's village, so yellow moves into red's village here with his 2 knights. When you lose a village, the opponent gets to take one of your victory point tokens, and it doesn't matter where the village was or what kind of terrain it was on, he'll just get to pick from your reserve of tokens. So it's like timing, right? You got to see where the opponents are and when they're going to attack you, and whether you should cash in your chits before they can do, or whether you can threaten one of their territories just enough to get you through to the next turn, so you can cash those tokens in before they take them from you. All right, so there's Barony. Very quick overview of what it's like. And I know what you're thinking, oh my God, he's got a chessboard on the table, but it's just what the feel of this game can give you. It's like where there's no surprises. You know exactly what your opponent can do. You can plan ahead. It's an abstract strategy area control game. It's fantastic. It's because, there's no hidden cards where it's like, surprise, that whole thing you've been planning for the last 3 turns, well, this card says that you've wasted your time. There's none of that. It's all about threatening areas, forcing your opponent to do things that he doesn't want to do within the rules. Now, these other games here, I looked through my shelf. I don't have very many games like this, but there's some elements in these games that will give you the same feel. So if you like any of these games, you might want to give Barony a try. First of all, we have Kemet. It's also sort of area control. You're going to control these temples. And in order to keep those temples, you want to threaten his other spaces so they don't attack those temples. You want to get up other armies, so you force him to attack other areas rather than your victory point temples that you're holding. There's there's monsters, special abilities. Don't want to go full into it. one of the best games that are out there for war area control. Game of Thrones, it's the combat system that's slightly the same, and the area control. It has the diplomacy the diplomacy combat thing where if you have more troops than your opponent, then they get pushed out. There's a little bit of randomness in here with the leader cards, but other than that, I still think it's my favorite game of all time. There's just so much in Game of Thrones with the cards and the combat and the way it's all packaged together. I still don't have the newest edition, but I've played the newest edition. They've got like scenario packs. Game of Thrones is what's everyone talking about because of the TV show. I've read the books. I've seen one episode. I think it's fantastic, but they've got these scenario things where it actually takes parts of the books and changes the whole game to adapt it to that certain time period. I've played both of those. Those are fantastic. Taking Euphrates is up here just because of just the solid, you know exactly what can happen, no surprises, threatening areas, trying to keep your temples, bringing in your victory points, and forcing your opponent to make certain moves while you get victory points. And then there's diplomacy. You know, they always say that this is the friend killer. I really think that this is going to make a comeback. There's all this new push towards the new social games, but there's these traitors in the games and you backstab people and it's all this intrigue stuff and people seem to be okay with that. So if we get a diplomacy game that is not quite so long as this, I think we can get a revival of this kind of game where you backstab your friends and you make these pacts where you're actually lying, because there's all these new social games that let you do that, yet it doesn't give you the trouble that this diplomacy game has given gaming groups. So I think this is on a comeback, folks. I guarantee it. Diplomacy, fantastic war game. I know it gets a lot of bad rap, but it is tried, trusted, and true. So Barony, why is it so good? Easy to set up. Straight rules. The fiddly bits are the map. Like, since you know that you've seen that the certain territories are worth more. So I think when you build the map, it's best to let the newest player build it, let them lay it out, or just flip them all the same way like you would other games. And then just try and remember the different rules about where you can move. Other than that, perfectly solid. Wooden pieces on the board, when it's all set up, it looks great. You can get a game off in about 45 minutes if you're only playing. It works great with all players. Like I've played this multiple times with just 2 or 3. Works all through all the different numbers. Quick to teach. Easy to play. I brought this to the convention that I was just at. Played it a bunch of times. Taught people. Very easy. So in this group of games, like a strategic abstract strategy game, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Definitely in the collection. It's fantastic. So thank you very much for watching. That was Barony. Come back, check out my other reviews. If you came to this review not through the Dice Tower, that is a place to go. If you want to know what is going on with board games, if you're just new to the hobby or you're interested on what this is all about, they have daily videos there. They have weekly shows now, Board Game Breakfast. That will bring you up to date on what is going on in the board gaming world. Thank you for watching. This is To The Point. My name's Mike Walker. Peace!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.